Welcome back to the third video on the series of batch programming. In the previous videos, we learned about these commands. So we learned about @echo off, echo, CLS, pause, goto, the semicolon, and the start. If you still don't know what these commands are, you could go to my previous videos in this series, and that's where you learn about these commands. So in this video, we'll be learning about variables and how to use them. So if we open up this batch file and we make a simple script, so basically what it should do is it should just display, hi, I have $100 and I don't have $100. So if we save this, it says, hi, I have $100, I don't have $100. So basically what a variable is, it's just like algebra. If you're in algebra, this is pretty much what it is. So a variable could be like x. In CMD, a variable could be anything. So it could be money. It could be any letter or any word. So just to make it easier, I'll just set the variable equal to x. So to make a variable equal something, you'll write set. So what set will do is it's going to set a variable. So first you'll write the variable, and then you're going to write equal, and then you're going to write to whatever you want it to equal to. So you're just making x equal to something. So we'll say x equal to 150. So now what command prompt did is that every time it sees x, it's going to write 150. To make x into an actual variable, what we'll do, because if there's just a text and you write like extra, and you want it to say extra, but it's going to see x, and it's going to change it to 150, that's not going to make sense. So you have to let CMD know somehow that this is a variable. So what you would do is you would put parentheses, percent signs around the x, and now every single time CMD sees x, it's going to make it 150. So it's going to change all of this just to equal 150. So now if we make this x, now every single time it sees x, it's going to make it 150. So if we try that out, and there you go, it says 150, and there was x in there. And this is helpful if you don't want to change. So if like I said, I had 100 and 100, and I had like a lot of these. For example, let's say I had a whole bunch of like script and stuff in 100, and I didn't want to go through and every single one change it to 200, because that would have been a long like, if the more text there is, the longer it's gonna take. And if you wanted like just to change one, and it's gonna change everything. So to do this is what the variables are helpful with. So now we could just change this to x, and we could change all of these to x. Now if we try it out, all of these, where the x usually was, it should say 150. And now it says 150. And like I said, this is useful when you want to change a whole bunch of the same numbers. So like, for example, maybe your salary went up to $200. Maybe you're in a job and you have to change it to $200. So all you do is you would just change x to 200, and now every time it sees x, it's going to do 200 instead of 150. And instead of you going through and rewriting 200 for every single 150, all you would do is it's going to change it to 200. The variable, it's going to change it to 200. So now that you know how to set variables, now we could learn how to change the variables every single time. So let's say that we set x equal to 100, and every single time we press unpause, we want it to grow by 10 every single time. So we don't want x always just to equal 100. We want it to add by 10 every single time without us having to go into Notepad and add 10 every single time. We'll make this treat, just any name you want, and then we'll say echo 100, and then we'll make it pause and go back to tree. So now it's just gonna, x. So now the variable, now just like we did before, it should just equal 100. But if we wanted to add by 10 every single time, so right now it's just going to equal 100, and however much times I press on pause, it's only going to still be 100. But every time I press on pause, we want it to add by 10. What we would do is we would set the variable, so x equal to x plus 10. So what this does is it says, okay, x, we're going to take x, and now x equals the actual variable, so we know that x equals 100, so now it's going to take 100 and add it by 10. So now every time it's going to say x equals 100 plus 10, and whatever x equals. So next time we're going to go through, now it's going to equal 110, because now x is going to be 110, and it's going to add by 10, so it's going to be 120. But what you also need to do is write /a. So that lets it know that it's a number, and it's going to let us add it. Because if you don't add /a, it's not going to let us change the variable every single time. So now every time I should go through, so first time as soon as I turn on CMD, it should say 100, because x equals 100. So it's going to equal 100, and then it's going to go over here. And as soon as we press unpause, it's going to add 100 by 10, and then it's going to go back to here. So now x is going to be 110, so it's just going to echo 110. And then after we press unpause again, it's going to add by 10, and it's going to keep on going. So if we start it up, it's going to be 100, and then as soon as we press any key, it should add by 10. So press any key, 110, 120, 130, and it's just going to keep on going forever and ever. So to make this a little bit easier to see, we could add CLS, what we've learned, and now it's just going to change it stationary, so it's always going to be right here. So now it's 110, 120, and it's going to go on forever. So in this video, we learned that we could set variables and make it equal to certain text or number, and we also learned how to add numbers to your variables that only works with numbers. So this set /a only works with numbers. Thanks for watching, and see you in video number 3.